Xenoshyft. This is your review for 2. Good day, my name is Joe Gerba. Today I'll be talking about Xenoshyft and how it plays with 2 players. Now Xenoshyft is a 1 to 4 player game where you'll be building your deck of soldiers, trying to defend your base against the oncoming brood that's going to come in wave to wave, and if you can make it to wave 9 you win the game. So let's see a little bit more how to play. So in Xenoshyft, it's kind of like any deck building game. You're going to start off with your basic resource cards and a couple basic militia, and you'll be upgrading the militia. You'll be getting new soldiers to fight, and as the waves go by, you'll be getting more advanced troops. You also have these items you can buy, and you'll be able to equip those to your troops. So over the course of the round, you're going to get 6 cards, decide what you want to buy, and then once you buy it, you add it to your hand, which is a kind of nice part of this deck building game. And then you're going to prepare your lane by putting cards down here and equipping your lane to hopefully counteract the brood that's going to come in these waves. So you're going to do that 9 times, and if you can do that, you win the game. And that's really the basics how to play. And as far as the clash, as far as the waves, it's really going to be the front of the wave, or the front of your line to the front of the enemy lines, and you'll be adding these health chips to kind of show them fighting. When your person dies, it goes to the discard, and when the enemy dies, it is to the opponent's discard. Every 3 waves, there's going to be a boss minion, which you don't know where it's going to spawn in the wave. Your rangers, your militia, your defenders are going to have some abilities they can do. There's going to be abilities on the items, and you're really just trying to defend off your base. Everybody's going to start off with a basic kind of facility, and this kind of enhances some of the game. So in a 2-player game, you'll both have a facility where you can maybe get an extra weapon from the discard pile and add it to your lane for the round, or you could have an extra action or an extra Xenosanthem to spend on your turn. So that's basically the game. Deck building, buying more cards, buying more items, getting your lane ready, and when you're all set to go, defend your lane against the brood, and hopefully you win. One neat part about this game is you can also play your cards in the second player's zone, or in however many players you play in their area. However, once it dies, it does become their card, so you can also help each other throughout the game. That's the basics part of the game, so let's go a little bit more what I thought about the game. Now the components in this game, they give you quite a few cards. These cards are fairly cheaper quality, but that doesn't really bother me too much. They give you quite a bit of variety to put out here as far as your defenders go, and as far as the items. The rules, fairly straightforward. Once you pick it up, it's really deck building game. Set your lineup. Hopefully you beat the brood, and if the brood beats you, you take damage to your base, and once the base is at 0 hit points, you lose and you can start over. The references are okay. It's pretty straightforward. The abilities on the cards, the abilities on the items you get. The rules itself in this game really aren't that bad. The setup will take you a little bit of time, especially for the items. You have to put out one, or shuffle the items, get them out there, and then decide which ones are going to be out there. It's kind of a painstaking process, just like any kind of deck building game with variables set up. It's just going to take you about that much amount of time. But there is just a lot of different cards in the box that need to go in separate spaces, so it may take you a little while to set up. But as far as getting it to the table, you can play this on a 3x3. It'll be kind of tight like we did, but it can be played on a 3x3. So let's go straight into the gameplay. The gameplay in this game is okay. You're putting them down. It does feel like you're defending, like the Starship Troopers kind of type. You're putting these your defenders down. You may have sniper rifles. You may have the assault commanders, and then you put them some armor, and they can take more hits before they die. Hopefully they can kill an enemy or two. You have 4 spots to be able to put your people in. The brood has a maximum of 4 they'll be able to send at you. Like I said, every 3 waves you get this boss coming your way, and it is neat and thematic, but you draw 6 cards on your turn, and like any deck building game, it can really be hit or miss on what you draw. I do like it if you do draw these resource cards and buy a couple things out there. You can immediately put it into your hand, which you can put into your lane. People who are survivors from your lane get to stay there, but spoiler alert, there usually aren't too many left at the end of the round for you. But you're also at the whim. Later in the game, you may not draw cards to buy things with, and you may just be stuck with some basic cards out there, which almost get one shot by a couple of these the brood, the monsters, if you will. And let me tell you, some of these are pretty brutal, where they'll just knock out one of your people, and that's that. So you're kind of at the whim at the later stages of the game on what you get. The deck building is there. You can kind of tell. You buy this and you may see it every other round. You start off with 10 cards. You get to draw 6 per round. And what is neat though is these abilities that each player gets at the game. This game gets much easier with the more people you play with, and a little bit more advanced as far as you get to do more stuff on your turn with people's abilities. Like I said, some may be getting weapons out of the graveyard or the discard pile and putting it straight onto your battlefield. You may get an extra resource to spend on your turn. Anything that can help in a group setting really makes this game easy. So a 2-player, there's a little bit of dichotomy, and you can kind of help your opponent, but once you play something to help your opponent, you lose it for the rest of the game and it becomes part of their deck. It's okay, and then like I said, it's pretty standard as far as the deck building, but my one real big gripe is once you set your lane up and once the monsters are set up, there's not a whole lot of stuff you can do in between unless you have some of these items. And there's just not a whole lot of decision making once the lanes are set up. Sure, there are a couple like once per round effects, but it just doesn't feel very weighty in this game. So let's talk about the difficulty and the replayability. The first 2 waves are fairly straightforward. The rounds 1 through 3 and 4 through 6. You can probably get through, and then once you hit round 7, if you have a bad draw, you're probably just gonna get smashed, and that's fine. That's kind of the whole point of the game, is to come up with some decent cards. And as far as the replayability goes, there are a lot of different items in this game. There are a lot of different troops, and that's kind of neat. These brood decks are pretty sizable. There's 3 different waves of the brood that's going to come at you, and we have Xenoshyft Dreadmire. So the first Xenoshyft will be about the same, except Dreadmire comes with some of these weather cards, and you're fighting a couple different enemies, but it's still going to play the same. And then the luck for strategy. There is some strategy, but like I said, you're drawing 6 cards at the end of the game. If your deck has around 15 cards in it, you may see a card every other round, and if you just get a bad draw, well, that's about game over for you. So is this game good for 2? And it's a fine game, but it's not going to be for everybody. It's tough for me to want to play this game. It's tough for me to say, hey, let's play some Xenoshyft today. You really got to be in the right mindset. And there are other deck builders that do it kind of better. You can tell they wanted this to be like big, expansive, a lot of add-ons to this, but that really doesn't add much to the gameplay itself. Like I said, there's just not a whole lot of interaction. The first 3 rounds are pretty straightforward, and then you get to the middle part of the game and it becomes a little bit tougher, but then you become at the whim of the draw. The game is fine, the gameplay is fine, the replayability is there, but like I said, there's just not a whole lot of decision making on your turn other than what am I going to buy and add to my hand and play this turn. The rest you're at the whim of the card draw, and I do think this game would probably be easier, maybe more interactive at 3 or 4 players, but also slows down a little bit when it comes to the waves kind of clashing against each other, because you may have cards in your hand that affect the board or affect someone else's board. But like I said, this game is okay, it plays fine. I would play it if somebody really wanted to, but it's not a game that I feel like needs to be in a collection. So you get a lot of stuff here, you get a lot of cards, you get a lot of variable setup. The replayability is there if you like the game. So hopefully this got you a little bit of taste what it's like to play Xenoshyft, and hope you guys enjoyed the review, and till next time.